All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming out and supporting us. I appreciate all the vendors being out here, taking the time and coming down to this area and really supporting what we're doing with the trade schools. I want to thank Josh for coming out and being able to speak on this panel. For those of you that are not aware of what we're doing, Matt's going to moderate. He's going to ask us some questions, and me and Josh are going to talk about our time in the trade and the next generation and getting them involved. So we'll have a Q&A for you guys at the end. So if you guys could hold the questions, please do so. But we'll have Matt get started, and we'll take it from there.
Perfect. I'm actually going to have Pat and Josh talk a little about themselves, quickly introduce themselves. I feel like everybody knows both of them here anyways now, but just to give a quick introduction anyways, especially for people that might be watching via video.
So for those of you that don't know me, I'm sure you guys all do, but Patrick Cochran, owner and founder of Red Dogs Roofing, grew up around the trade, so was around roofing my whole life, but kind of tried to stay away from it. Went to college and just seen a really big need for an honest roofing company. So I started the company in 2012, and this idea that you guys see here started on a plane. So this was something that was in my mind, and I've watched it come to life, which is really cool. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to Josh.
So Joshua Page, owner of JP Electric & Son out of Fitchburg. Started this business back in 2011 as Joshua Page Electrician, and then I incorporated into JP Electric & Son. 2015, I bought Rural Electric, which has been in Fitchburg since 1954. 2017, I bought Patriot Electric out of Concord, Massachusetts. And then here we are today. We're still owning and operating the three companies, but we're slowly just transferring it all to JP Electric. I went to Monty Tech in Fitchburg for electrical and really screwed up a lot in school. I didn't really get into the trade until about senior year. I was suspended 3 out of my 4 years in high school until I really found my way. But electrical is, I love it. I love it now. I'm very proud of this business that we've created and been in business since 2011. So I'm very, very happy to be here, and thank you guys so much.
And Josh, I'm happy to announce, is also a fellow author. He's got a great book coming out shortly-ish. What's the name of it, Josh?
So I've actually written and published 2 children's books called What Does Your Daddy Do and What Does Your Mommy Do, which is based on career week at school. And the little boy finds out that his father's an electrician and finds out all the cool things to do as an electrician in the trades. And then What Does Your Mommy Do is the same concept, but the little girl finds out her mom's an electrician. So I wanted all the little girls to know growing up that they can be in the trades as well, whether it be roofing or plumbing or electrical. That was my little seed for them to get that involved into their minds instead of, only a doctor or, fireman or policeman. Not a lot of the young kids know about the trades. That was my little seed that I wanted to plant in their heads. And then this new book is called What If You're the One? And it's based on my movement of Iron Warrior Awaken to help blue-collar businessmen and women to that seems successful on the outside but really lost on the inside, to really live with passion, find their purpose, and to become the best version of themselves. So that was a long answer.
I love it, though. I think it's important for you to mention that. So obviously we wanted to culminate the end of this day with everything that's gone on, which is a few questions that we wanted to talk to Josh and Pat about their experience in the trades. For anybody that might be watching that has a lot of their own questions, hopefully we're going to be able to cover a lot of the questions that other people might have. So I'll start right off with them, and then I'll hand the microphone off. We can go from Patrick to Josh. So what inspired you to choose a career in the trades? And did you always know you'd go into a trade, or did you discover that later?
So I grew up around the roofing industry. It was one of those things that I tried to get away from. I think if you're in the trade and you grow up around it, you're either embracing it or you're trying to run away from it. I definitely tried to run away from it. Leaving high school, I was definitely lost. Didn't know what I was going to do. Found out I was becoming a father at 18 years old. Figured I had to figure something out. So I went to school, got my degree, my associates, my bachelor's, and then my master's. And I saw construction and specifically roofing as a great opportunity. I just seen there to be a need for people to be honest and transparent. And unfortunately in this industry, that doesn't always happen. So it allowed me to kind of bring a professional feel to the roofing industry. And I think what we're doing in the local area, but also nationally, is definitely unique. There's a lot of great roofing companies out there, but I think for every one, there's probably a few guys that, maybe don't understand how to run a business properly or just aren't ethical, unfortunately. So I think there's, a lot of room for people that want to get into the trades. I did a little time, on the install and the repair side, but I really wanted to be a business owner, and that's kind of why I got into the trade. But there's a lot of great opportunities for students to be able to get involved, become an installer, and then work their way up. As you can see here, there's a lot of different people in this industry that don't actually do the roofing. These companies are very, very large. There's manufacturing, the supply side. We have a marketing team, call center. There's a lot of opportunities in the trades, and I think it's a great, great industry.
So mine's a little different. I was a C&D student. I was not good at school. And I actually went to Monty Tech because I knew Monty Tech as a trade school. You only had to go to school 2 weeks out of the month, and then you were in a trade the other 2 weeks. And I went to Monty Tech for cosmetology. And then I was always into the makeup in the movies and like the gore and all that stuff. I thought I could do makeup. And then I found out what cosmetology was really all about, and I couldn't picture myself doing French tips, French braids, and manicures for the rest of my life. So I went into plumbing. I failed out of plumbing, and I got stuck with electrical because a bunch of my friends were in that class. So that's how I ended up in electrical. And then I really was trying to find my way all of high school life and really didn't quite understand it until my senior year. And I was like, all right, I've got to wake up. I'm not going to college. I couldn't stand school. So that's how I really got into electrical and how I really got to have the love and the passion of being in the trade. So if anyone needs French braids, we'll see you in the hallway afterwards.
The follow-up to this question actually has a lot to do with what you guys were just talking about, but the question itself is, how did learning a trade change your life, financially, personally, or emotionally? The follow-up to that would be, can someone in the trades really make a good living without going to college?
So I want to start with the follow-up question. Somebody can absolutely make a great living in the trades. I think for so long, for a few generations now, they've pushed students to say you have to go to college. And I don't think that path is for everybody. I believe education is sacred. I think there's a time and a place for it. But a lot of kids are graduating with a lot of debt, and they're not able to get a job in the field that they've chosen. So the trade is a great way for somebody to make a living. Somebody who, like Josh mentioned, might be a CED student. They kind of need that outlook, right? They might be sitting in class, they're bored, they don't know what to do, and there's no outlet for them. So they're made to feel like they're not smart or they're stupid or something like that, and that's not the case, right? They learn differently, and I think the trade is very unique because you don't have to be traditionally good at school or any of that. If you show up, you're willing to learn, you can do great things financially, personally, and emotionally for yourself. I think there's a lot of stigma with the trades, but as far as making a good living and having to go to college, it's definitely not necessary. For myself, I think financially, personally, and emotionally, I've continued to grow. I think it's like anything else. You get what you put in. I think a lot of what I've done has been on personal development, and I think that's helped me personally, emotionally, and financially. Roofing and construction was just kind of the mechanism to get there. But for me, the trade has afforded my family their life for generations. So I've got nothing but good things to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, same thing as Patrick's saying. The question, how does learning a trade change your life financially, personally, and emotionally? I think you can do anything in life that you want to do. And if you want to go to college, that's great. I mean, we still need doctors and nurses and lawyers and all that stuff. For me, just college was never really an option. My parents my mom passed away when I was 13 years old. So it was really my father. He never had money for college. He wasn't ready for me to go to college. And honestly, I didn't want to go to college. I went for the trades and really found the passion in it because of seeing something I built with my hands and then watching it work. So like when you put up these light fixtures, like nothing works. There's no light in here. There's nothing. And then when you put the wiring in and hang the light fixture and connect it to the circuit breakers and all those things, and you get to see it turn on, to me, that was like the instant gratification. I was like, wow, I actually did that. And there's so many buildings, commercial and residential buildings, that we can drive through in all these different towns and be like, oh, I did that, or I did this, or I worked on that building. And it's just a sense of pride for me. And now with my kids, I can say the same thing. And I'm sure they're tired of me mentioning every single building in the area towns, but it's true. You know, it's the instant gratification. Same thing with a plumber when they turn on the faucet and water comes out. You know, it's you did that with your hands, and there's just something about it. I don't know how to explain it, but it's the gratification that you actually did that. Follow up: can someone in the trades really make a good living without going to college? Again, I think you can make a really good living selling ice cream. You know, it's based on what you want for yourself and what your purpose is in life. I'm doing very well, but I think it's because of the choices that we make, the investments that you make in yourself, the personal development, the reading the books, the leadership skills. It's all those things. You could be an electrician, be the poorest electrician that, you know, is in the state of Massachusetts, or you could be the most lucrative. You know, it's all based on what you want. And the same thing, again, I talk about electricians because I am one, but same thing with roofers and plumbers and everything else. You could be constantly chasing that dollar. But it really depends on what you want in life. If you want to be the best, then that's what you're going to be. But if you just want to skim by, you could skim by being a doctor. You could skim by being an electrician. You could do whatever you want. So, you know, we live in the greatest country in the world, you know, and the greatest state, I think, to do what you want to do. So whether you're into trades or college or anything else, it all depends on what you truly want.
Great answers. I know in recruiting, a lot of times when we're talking to, especially production people, a lot of their answers are very similar, and they're very proud of what they're accomplished or what they've produced, much like you talked about. But a lot of it is also serving, right? They've had the ability to help somebody else. You know, they've had the ability to put a new roof or to really help somebody in the long run. I know that's a big answer for a lot of people. So you kind of touched on this next question, but we're going to ask it to see if you can extrapolate maybe a little bit more. What kind of education or training did you get to get started? Did you have to go to trade school, or were there other ways, or do you know of other ways to get in?
So this is a good question because I think roofing is very different than electrical in regards to this. So I'll speak from a roofing standpoint. A lot of what you get for roofing is on-the-job training. You're not getting training prior in a lot of cases. So I kind of grew up around the trade, watching guys do it, be out there in the field. But you definitely don't have to go to a trade school for roofing. You know, there's a lot of things that we're doing as a national association. The NRCA has put together a great curriculum, and we're working to get that into trade schools for Skills USA. However, it's not a requirement, right? If you show up, you've got a good attitude, you've got the aptitude, right? You're kind of handy, and you know, the attendance, right? Are you going to show up every day? And if you can do that, you know, you can make your way in the trade. And I think to Josh's point earlier, you know, it doesn't matter what you do, right? It's how you do it. Because ultimately, you could show up and you could be in the roofing industry and you could make it very far, or you could end up in the roofing industry, start making a lot of money, and watch your whole life spiral out of control because you made bad choices. So again, I don't think it's necessarily what someone's doing as far as like that trade goes, but it's the skills that you learn every day out there for training. So again, you know, for roofing, to really summarize it, you don't have to go to the trade school. If you go for carpentry, you're obviously going to come out with a little bit more aptitude and understanding. But as far as education goes, a good company will train you, they'll work with you, they'll help you grow and gain the skills that you need to be successful in the industry.
So what kind of education or training do you need to get started? So we can have someone come off the street to want to become an electrical apprentice, or you can go to trade school. But either way, you're going to end up going to school. To become a licensed electrician in the state of Massachusetts, it's 8,000 working hours and 600 theory hours. So the way that they break that down is essentially 4 years. So it's roughly 2,000 working hours a year and roughly 150 school hours a year. If you went to trade schools, sometimes they give you like 1,500 or 2,000 hours. It might even be less now because of our great MCAS system. But if not, you go to night school. It's typically the same thing from like September to May, or I think it's September to May, September to April. And they do night school, so it's usually 2 nights a week, 3 hours a night. and then you get your 150 hours as a level 1 apprentice, and then you go to level 2, level 3, level 4. And once you get up to 8,000 working hours and 600 theory hours, then you can go take your journeyman electrician's exam. So there is training. There's quite a bit. We are a licensed trade. Every 3 years we go through a 15-hour code update, and then 6 hours of continuing education. So our code book's about this thick, and we go through that from cover to cover, learning all the new articles or anything that's been deleted or added, and different code changes. So there's quite a bit to become a licensed electrician. Same thing, licensed plumbers. And did you have to go to school all the ways in? Yeah, you don't have to. You don't have to go to trade school. But what I find is our best electricians are the ones that worked or tinkered on their bikes when they were young, or climbed trees, or worked on their motorcycles or dirt bikes. All those things is what I find the best electricians. I think that's about it.
So we kind of know what a first year in college is like. It's kind of an extension of high school when it comes down to, but I'm quite sure there's a lot of kids that are out there wondering, and this is different, I'm quite sure, for every kid that's out there. What does the first year in the trades look like?
So this is a very interesting question. I think it can be very different depending on the company you're with, but also the approach that the individual takes. In the beginning, a lot of it is just kind of running. You know, you're running errands, you're out there, and you can feel like they're almost just kind of running you around. And I talked to a lot of old school guys that have been in the roofing industry forever, and it was obviously a lot rougher and tougher back then. They said those guys would try to break you because they knew that this was not an easy industry to be out there in the elements, in the heat, working hard, you know, heavy lifting, all of that. But I think obviously things have changed quite a bit, you know, so but it's still the trade. You still have to get out there. It's still hot. So in the beginning, it's really a lot of running around. You know, you might be an errand boy or a girl to try to get out there, but you have to take it as a learning experience, right? We learn from doing. When you get the opportunity to do something, you want to do that because you don't just learn from theory. You don't just learn from talking about it. It's getting hands-on and being able to take that approach. So I think it's very important that, you know, somebody coming in understands their first year, it's not going to feel like you're a roofer or you're an electrician that first year. Like, you have to put the time in. And I think a lot of time we want that instant gratification. We live in an age where everything is right at our fingertips. But if you're coming into the trades first year, you have to understand you've got to be able to work your way up. The pay may not be great in the beginning, right? But you want to be able to do and learn more skills. And if you're learning skills, the company is either going to appreciate that and promote you, or you'll be able to take those skills and bring them somewhere else. Now, it's not always to say that, well, if I do this, you know, the company's going to always recognize you. Maybe they don't, but at least you're gaining the skills to be able to move forward. Maybe you'll outgrow that company that you were with your first and second year, right? And that's okay. But it's really important that people understand they have to learn by doing. And at first, you may not even get that opportunity to do, but if you show up every day and you want it, you know, you'll either find your way at that company or at a different company. So, yeah.
So first year in the electrical trade, number one is safety. We're working with electricity. So there's no live work. We're not working on live circuits. We're shutting things off, making sure that you have work boots, 100% cotton clothing. And the reason for that is if you're wearing spandex or anything else that's not cotton and you do become electrocuted, it's really hard to get that unstuck from your skin when you're in the hospital. So it's a lot easier with cotton clothing. It comes right off. So I don't want to scare anyone, but that's the truth. We work in all temperatures. So we're outside when it's 100 degrees. We're in attics when it's 140 degrees. We're outside, especially in New England winter when it's 20 degrees, 0 degrees, windy. We're working in the dirt. Electricians, we really work with every single trade, you know, with roofers, with plumbers, with masons, drywalling. You know, we're everywhere. So we've got to be prepared at all times. The biggest thing with our apprentices that I try to teach them is never have your hands in your pockets. You could always have a broom because you're never going to get yelled at if you're cleaning up. But the biggest thing is to always anticipate the next move. So obviously there's going to be times that we're going to be watching your electrician or anticipating what they need, or you're going to grab the ladder or the wire nuts or the material, whatever else. But after that watching and observing, then we should understand, okay, if they're going to put up this light fixture and they're going to need screws, then I want to have those screws ready for them. So that way my electrician doesn't have to ask them. We can just reach down and grab them. So that's our first step, is to always just make sure that we're anticipating the next move. But there is the grunt work. It is digging trenches. It is running to the van and grabbing more material or carrying all the heavy stuff up. We've all been there. That's where we all start. And as an electrician, it's not just a job, it's a career. It takes you 4 years of your life to become an electrician and then to continue the education throughout the rest of your life. So what I really do is I like to push the apprentices to a point that I want to make sure you're really here. This isn't just a stepping stone. This isn't just a job. This isn't just another check mark on the resume. This is a career. And if this isn't what you want, I'd rather know within the first 3 months, and then you could be a roofer. No, I'm just joking. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather find out, like, man, this trade is not for me. And I actually had an apprentice one time that he worked for us for about 6 months. And one of my electricians, I didn't even know it until after he quit, but he asked me, he said, do you really want to do this? And he said to him, he said, you know what? Not really. I want to go and dust vents with my father. And that's what he did. But I would rather him be honest and go work somewhere else or do something that he wants to do than just continuously trying to push him to something that he didn't want to do.
I think, just real quick, to Josh's point, if you don't want to be the electrician, we'll take you. Touche.
I used to tell a lot of my employees it's their first job ever, and I used to tell a lot of them that if they were standing around, at least grab a clipboard, even if there's a blank piece of paper, and just do this every now and then, because it always still looks good. So what kind of a personality or attitude really thrives in the trades? And what would you say to a student who's unsure if college is right for them?
So to the first part, I think, personality of just being a problem solver. It's important that you want to work with your hands and you want to kind of see things through. You're going to hit a lot of challenges no matter what trade you're in. You've got to be able to adapt and problem solve. You can't get overly stressed on yourself, although you do see it a ton in the trades. So it's not a requirement, but the better attitude that you have on the field, in the field, the better attitude you'll have at home, right? And again, it goes back to how you do one thing is how you do everything. But for people wondering, is college right for you? I think the biggest thing, Josh talked about being a doctor or a lawyer. There are trades that it's obviously very necessary for you to be able to get out there in careers to go to college. I think if you weren't, thrilled with school or, you don't have to feel like you've got to push yourself. There's so many opportunities. And if you can work on yourself and your attitude, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Josh said you could be selling ice cream, right? It really doesn't matter what you're doing. You can take two businesses in the same market. One's thriving, one's failing. What's going on? It always boils down to the people at the business. So, as far as individuals go, if you're considering college or you're not quite sure, exploring the trades or other opportunities outside of that may be a better bet because it's a big investment. In Massachusetts, you can go to community college now for free, but if you're having to pay for that and you're not really sure what you want to do, you may be leaving with a lot of debt, and now you're starting off behind. And if you're not really sure if it's for you, maybe take that year off, figure it out. But going to trade shows, going to job fairs, things like that are definitely important. I think, for young high school students, if they're not sure what they want to do, try different things. Don't feel like you have to figure it all out at once. I mean, for all the adults in the room, I think some of us are still trying to figure it out, right? It's just how life is. So I don't think anybody should feel the pressure to go to college if they're not really sure that what they are going to do is absolutely needed in college. From a business owner standpoint, I went to college, I went that route, but looking back, what you really learn is when you're in the field, right? When you're applying things, it goes back to what I talked about the experience. It comes from doing. That's how you really learn. We can talk about theory all you want, but when you go out there and the world punches you in the face, now you're going to really learn. And some of those lessons come very hard. Some of them come a little easier. But either way, you're learning and growing if you take what you learned and apply it moving forward. So for people that are unsure of college, I would say definitely think about it. Don't force yourself into it. So.
So the right attitude for an electrician is you are the best, because we are the best trade on site, no matter what anyone says. No, just joking. So what I see in the trades, you've got three ways of senses. So you've got your auditory, which is your ears, your visual, which is your eyes, and then kinesthetic, which is your hands. And what I've seen over the last 15, 20 years is the best people in the trades, doesn't matter what trade you choose, we are very kinesthetic. We are not very good visual learners in school. You can watch people and you can do things, because I can see that. I can watch someone spackle a wall and hang sheetrock, and I'm like, okay, I know how to do that. I don't think we're very good auditory learners. I think a lot of us in school, in the trades specifically, we zoned out a lot. When you were just speaking from a book or a textbook or just the constant speeches, I don't think we paid attention a lot. But kinesthetically, when we were able to touch and hold and feel and fix with our hands, I think that it makes the best tradespeople by far across any trade. Is if you are very good with your hands, and that's the best way to learn, that is the best for tradespeople across the board. What would you say to a student? Unsure. So my big thing is college is not the only option, right? So college is good for doctors, lawyers, CPAs, for a lot of people. The problem that I have is that it's become a rite of passage. It is changing, but it's become a rite of passage in America where you must go to college to be successful. And that has just been an outright lie that we've all been told for generations, that you must go to college. Again, that college is a good spot for most, but it's not for everyone. And what gets me the most on college is when you go to college and you get the scholarships, or mom and dad's paying for it, or you're paying for it, or student loans, whatever it is, and then you get out of college and you don't even go into what you just spent all that money in college for, or you spend the rest of your life paying that off and you're not even making a lot of money. If you look at someone in a 4-year college and then someone who spent the last 4 years becoming an electrician or a plumber or doing roofing, and you look at their pays, the trades is most likely going to be a lot higher than someone who just got out of college. And the last 4 years of doing that trade, they've been getting paid that entire time. The last 4 years in college, all they've been doing is partying and drinking and spending mom and dad's money. So that's my biggest problem with the college, is that I just don't think it's used correctly. And again, it's not the only option. If you want to go military, I think that's wonderful. I should have went military. If you want to go to college, or you want to just get a regular job, that's fine too. But my biggest thing is we need to teach the younger generations that college is not the only option, and show them what's available. The roofing, carpentry, plumbing, electrical, welding, all of those different options, because I don't think the younger generation sees them enough. They just don't understand it unless someone in their family was in the trades, or someone has actually worked at their home. They don't even know an electrician exists or a roofer exists. If you live in a brand new house, I doubt you're ever going to see a roofer, the entire time you live there, until you move out and go to college or whatever else. So it's just getting kids to understand, or the younger generation to understand, that it's just not the only option. That's all.
I remember a quick story. I remember, Patrick, we went to a seminar for apprenticeship at one point or another, and they were talking about like it was this newfangled, brand new, they just came up with it last week kind of thing. And I remember at some point you leaning over to me and saying, this has been around for 10,000 years, shoe cobblers, and this is the way it's always been, right? Apprenticeship has always been that way, but in the last 100 years or so, it's been forgotten, especially probably in the last 50 years, even more so. So 2 more questions. How can a parent best support a child interested in the trades?
So I think if a student is interested in the trades, going out to job fairs is important, but I think getting involved with any company that you can, networking, it can be tough, right? You might not really know where to go, or you may not have connections like Josh talked about. Student may not even know that it exists, right? So I think having them figure out exactly, what they're really interested in, and going to those job fairs and taking part in anything that your school may have, and really supporting the student that way. I think also making local connections, right? I know myself, I'm sure Josh feels the same way. If somebody stopped by and said, hey, my kid's interested in the trade, I'd be more than happy to talk to him. So, making those local connections, reaching out to a place like the Chamber of Commerce, something like that, I think is very important. But I think really just networking, making connections and having them, now you can go on YouTube and really find anything. So I hate to say have them go on YouTube, but as a parent, just seeing like what they might be interested in. And I think, there's a lot of resources around, but sometimes people just don't really know where to go. So if you don't know where to go, you can always reach out to us at Red Dogs Roofing. We can point you in the right direction and connect you with people that we have locally for trades.
I think the best word in that entire sentence is, how can a parent best support a child interested in the trade? Support being the main word. So as a parent myself, I don't think my 2 kids want to be in the trades, and I'm perfectly happy with that. But I think the best thing is just to support them in whatever they want to do. And I'm going to give you a story that has nothing to do with the trades. But I was at a job a few years ago, and it was when, probably over 10 years ago now, because it was when my oldest son was diagnosed with ADHD, and we were having a really hard time with him. And I was talking with a client of mine, and he was talking about his son and growing up, and he had a really hard time with him, and he had ADHD, and all he cared about was playing video games. And he said, Josh, one time we got all his homework back before the summer, and we found out he had like a 14 in math or something. Like he's like, Josh, he didn't care about anything. All he cared about was playing video games. And so we ended up talking about him and ADHD and all these things. And so I said, well, where is he now? Now that I think about this was definitely pre-COVID. So I said, what is he doing now? And he said, well, you'll never believe it. And I said, what? He said, he lives in a 12,000 square foot mansion in Las Vegas with 6 other guys, and all they do is tour the country and setting up conference centers for video games. And he makes 6 figures a year. And I'm like, holy crap, that's amazing. But the moral of the story is that he complained about his son only playing video games, but he did support him. And then his son ended up making a very good living doing exactly what he wanted to do, which was to play video games. So the secret word here is support. If your kid or child wants to go to college, then support them. If they want to go into the trades, support them and reach out to any one of these organizations, Mass Hire or Red Dogs or myself. We would more than happy give you a tour of the facilities, talk to you about the trades, maybe even talk you out of it if you're not the right fit, and that's okay too. It's just talking to you about, hey, what is the best option? Maybe military is actually going to be the best option for you. Maybe a local community college is going to be the best option for you. Whatever it is, any one of us will be more than happy to talk to you. But the biggest thing is just support your children in whatever they want to do. And that's all we can do. We can't control them, but we can support them.
Great answers, guys. This is the last question we're going to ask. We're going to open the floor up for questions or comments after. If you could go back and talk to your 17-year-old self, what would you say to yourself about your job now? And what other advice would you give your 17-year-old self?
So I think if I was going to talk to my 17-year-old self, I would tell them that you've built the life that you've always wanted, right? What you've dreamed about has come true, and I think it's about being intentional. So if I could give him advice, it's be very intentional about what you're doing, right? There's a signal that comes to us, right? What is our goal? And then there's some noise sometimes. And sometimes we have to focus on the signal and not the noise. I come up with ideas all the time, and if I just let people talk me out of them, I would have never grew this business. So if I could give myself advice, it would be the biggest thing I would say to kind of summarize that is it's a journey, right? It's not a destination. The goal is just something you can quantify and you're reaching towards, but it's really about the journey that you're taking. You have to enjoy it. So we talked about your first year, in the trades, and as you kind of progress forward, like you have to think that wherever you are is right where you're supposed to be, even when it doesn't feel that way. And you have to take the lessons as they come and continue to apply them to your life so you can continue to grow. And that's really what it's all about. It's about the journey. And I would let myself know, set your goals high, shoot for the moon. And if you end up in the stars, you're not doing too bad.
So when I was 13 years old, my mom died of a cancerous brain tumor. In high school, I ran away I was suspended 3 out of my 4 years. I ran away twice. I ended up living with my aunt my junior into senior year. So my 17-year-old self was pretty messed up back then, but I'm damn proud of where I ended up today, and I'm proud of being in the trades and all the decisions I made. I was 17 when I actually met my girlfriend, Lindsay. We've been married 18 years this August. We've been together for over 20 years. And I don't think I would change a thing about what I did, because I have made a ton of mistakes in life, personally, monetarily, everything. But to me, all of those mistakes was my college tuition. I didn't need to go to college to learn everything I did. I went to the college of life, and I learned it all through making a lot of mistakes, and I really don't regret anything. So if I were to say anything to my 17-year-old self, it would be to continue to never have a plan B, to continue to never have a safety net behind you, because you're going to make mistakes, but you're never going to do what you truly are meant for in life if you always think that you've got a safety net behind you, because you're never going to fully commit yourself. You're just going to be like, all right, you know what? I'm fine. Mom and dad or my aunt, will save me, or I could move back in with them. There was no moving back in. I had my first apartment at 18 years old. There was no moving back. Like, there was no one saving me. The first $1,000 I lost, I didn't even know what to do. I couldn't call anyone for safety. And I wouldn't change that for anything. That was my life. It's not any of yours, or maybe it is, but I'm just saying I would continue to never have a safety net, because you'll never get to where you want to be.
Good stuff. So thank you, both of you, Josh and Pat, for those insightful answers. They were fantastic. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I have a question for Patrick. Of course. So you went to college. I didn't. Do you think college has helped you become a better business owner because of that extra training? Or do you think it didn't really do much?
That's a great question. I think for myself, again, I really applied myself when I was in college. I came from not paying attention at all in school, not caring about pretty much anything, what I was doing or where I was going. So when I went to college, I really dove in, and I learned everything. I networked with people. I really came out of my shell. I tell people I was an introvert. People don't believe that. But, I've learned to be extroverted. I did that. I learned, how to give a speech, how to talk in front of people. I didn't have that skill prior to going to college. So I think for myself, it was very, very beneficial. But I also know what I put in. I put in a lot of time and a lot of effort to make sure that I learned what I could while I was there. But I've seen people that go there and, they really didn't learn much, or they might have dropped out, and they still became very successful. So again, I think it's what you do with it. For myself personally, I got my bachelor's. I started doing repairs and preventative maintenance, kind of just chugging along to put my foot in the entrepreneur, side of the, arena. And then, it came to a point where I'm like, you know what, maybe I'll go get my MBA. And it was just all networking. I networked with people. I still do roofs to this day for people that I went to school with. So I made the most of it. And I think no matter what you do, if you take anything away from this as a student or somebody trying to figure out what they want to do next in their life, you have to put your all into it, like Josh talked about. Because if you go to school, you could do awesome at school and take away a ton. But if you don't show up and apply yourself, none of that matters. I use the phrase, I could give you the keys to the kingdom, but if you leave them on the table, you'll never get in, right? And I think it's really important that people understand, no matter what you're doing, you're selling ice cream, you're an electrician, you're doing roofing, if you show up and apply yourself, you have the right attitude, you make sure that you make the adjustments you're learning from, you're gonna gain from anything. I tell people, I either win or I learn. I'm never losing. Like, that's what makes life fun. It's like I'm never losing, because even when it's hard, okay, well, I don't like that. I'm going to do what I can to make sure that don't happen. I have to come up with a solution now and move forward, and then I'll figure out how to make sure I limit or eliminate that from happening in my life again. So I think college was very beneficial for me. I was very lost. becoming a young father, I'm like, I got to figure this out. Like, what am I going to do? This kid doesn't deserve this. How can I apply myself to make myself better? I think networking was huge in college. If you're going the college route or doing anything, network, talk to people, come out of your shell. Your network will change your world, I promise you. So I think I gained a lot in networking. I think I gained a lot learning about business. I think the true lessons came from doing when I got out into the field and I started learning about business and what to do and what not to do. But yeah, college was great for me, and I think it was really just the way that I took the approach.
Pat, would it be safe to say the distinction was that you wanted to go to college? It was, you weren't being forced by any means. This was an active discipline that you wanted to do, right? I
didn't know what I wanted to do at all. I just knew that I had to figure it out. So college just happened to be the thing. But I had no idea. So, I mean, nobody was definitely not forcing me to go. I was never told you have to go to college. I can remember, I tell my son this story and he laughs because he went to a good school. I didn't know what a GPA was. I went down there and I'm like, hey, I want to apply for college. And they're like, oh, well, what's your GPA? And I'm like, I don't think I have one. And she goes, you all have one. And I'm like, well, can you? She was like, I can get it. But she's like, you don't know what it is? And she's like, okay, so we're going to look at the mount. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Really didn't even know what the mount was. But business really fascinated me. And then I'm like, okay, like I can see myself. And at that time I was starting to read more. So I just really dived into it, but nobody was pushing me one way or the other. That's the one thing about my parents is no matter what I do, they support me. So I wasn't made to feel like, oh, you have to do this or you have to do that or you have to get into roofing. Like I never felt pressure for any of that. So being there was because I wanted to be there. And I'm sure for some people going to college, they feel forced. And if you're forcing it, it's probably not going to work because you're kind of going against your own flow. So yeah, I was there on my own accord. I didn't know what, community college was, but I figured it out real quick, so.
Any other questions or comments?
So, say that you didn't go to college and maybe you came from a place that maybe it was like a lower income area or something, you don't have a lot of like great connections and stuff. How do you go about finding mentors or like-minded people if you want to be successful?
That's a great question. So I, grew up working class. My family really had connections within roofing, but that was it. My mother, a stay-at-home mom. My father and, uncles and all that were all in roofing. So the only connections I really had was, within that field. I didn't really do too much in high school, so I really didn't have like teachers that I'm like, oh yeah, that person was a mentor to me. But, my suggestion to it and the way that I found people was just by connecting with people, talking to people, sharing my story, but more importantly, being interested in theirs. And I've met a lot of great people. I have a lot of mentors that have been great to me from the business side, from a mindset and personal development side. But I think if you don't know kind of where to start, just start with a conversation, right? And if you show interest in other people, they're going to take a liking to you, right? Because we all can go through the day and we don't feel like, sometimes you go through the day so fast, you don't really feel like you've made that connection with people and everything's so quick, right? Everything's so digital. But if you stop and talk to somebody and have a conversation, I would say start there, and as it continues to grow, when I see myself and other people and I see somebody at an opportunity where maybe, they are from a lower or, moderate income family, or maybe don't really have that, and I'm talking to them, I always offer mentorship, or I say, hey, if you want to sit down and talk with me, or hey, you're growing the business, or you want to learn more about X, if I have it, I'll give it. Most people who are in a spot like that, they want to share because somebody did it for them. But the problem is people, there's a lack of communication, and I think for some people, they don't realize how open people actually are. But I would say start with a conversation, show interest in somebody, like, hey, I noticed you did this. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, let me learn a little bit more about that. And you'd be surprised at how many people will open up and be like, hey, you'd like to do a call every week, or hey, you want to get together once a month and grab dinner? I would say start there. And Josh, I don't know if you have something to add to that.
No, I agree. Other than this tablecloth is going to end up on my lap pretty soon. No, I was trying to think of, I think, You know, it depends on what age group you're really talking about, but I think the teachers really need to get involved in other aspects other than just higher education, so that way they can educate their students as well. Luck does a very good job of that in Fitchburg. We do a lot of work with Luck. I was actually just at one of their group homes the other day, but I think if anyone's looking for it, I think just, yeah, the mentorship, it's talking to the teachers, it's talking to the other adults in the areas and letting them know like what they're interested in, or the younger generations, honestly, a lot of them don't know. And now you've got TikTok and Snapchat and all that stuff, and they're watching, and YouTube, they're watching a lot, but they might not know how to find someone or how to talk to them about it. And I think just reaching out to some of these smaller companies and just being blunt with them, just asking like, hey, I'm interested in roofing. You know, what is it all about? And if they talk to you guys and they're like, oh man, I don't want to do that. Okay, like what else do you want to do? Oh, I'm really into welding. Like my youngest son, which I don't know how he even knows about it, but he wants to do underwater welding. He's 10 years old. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, I know nothing about it, but we'll try to figure it out. So it's just, I'm glad you brought it up. I must have seen it on YouTube or something, but I think the trades are getting out there more, especially with social media, that they're seeing it. They understand like what trades are available now. So I think that just to overall answer your question, it would just be, I think probably the teachers just need to start educating other than just higher education.
Did you have a follow-up to that, or?
Not really. I think you did a great job answering.
Awesome.
Any other questions, comments?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. Dan, a comment and an intention. First and foremost, great job to both of you guys, and thank you for sharing your stories. I think that's the most important thing, and just getting this message out. But I would love to ask the videographer too to create snippets and create commercials to create more awareness, because there's so many. It's not even just the younger generation. There's so many people just in confusion of what to do next. Yeah. And as we know, like there's a shortage of supply for the trades all across the board. Right, so I think more than anything, the culture that you guys are building, superb. So yes, great job. Keep getting this message out. Keep showing up to all the places, because I do believe that the ripple effect is going to be huge.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a question about that. So I know she mentioned shortage of supply in the trades, and I know how you and I met is that skills. Can you talk a little bit more about how you got involved in skills, how the rest of us can get involved to support?
Yeah, so great question. So I want to kind of give a little bit of a backstory, and then this will kind of fill it in. So for those of you that don't know, I volunteer for the NRCA, National Roofing Contractor Association. They have a continuing technical education committee. We've got commercial roofing approved at a national level 3 years ago, which is awesome, right? They haven't had roofing in the trade schools, so this was like a huge step for the industry. We had, I think, three states the first year, 9 the second, and then this year we had 17. Massachusetts adopted it this year with the help of Tara, Matt, and other people on my team made that possible. So we had the largest state competition. We went from 0 students to 8 students in a matter of a few months. We actually had to cap it off because there were so many schools that wanted to be involved. But to kind of start to answer that question directly, last year we had to cap it at 8 because it was a new competition for Massachusetts, so we had to be able to contain it. However, this year we opened it to all 64 trade schools in Massachusetts. Every single one of them can be involved. So it's going to take a group effort, right? The material, the training, everything like that. Whatever trade schools want to get involved, we're going to need people to be able to supply material. We're going to need people to be able to supply the training, the hands-on training. We have the curriculum, the NRCA has it, so the curriculum is there. But if you're looking to get involved and you're in the roofing industry, you know, whether it's through donations or hands-on training, there's going to be a lot of schools in Massachusetts. Our goal is to get in as many as possible. Then they're going to have a regional competition this year, so there'll actually be a precursor to the state. And Massachusetts is broken up for Skills USA into 12 divisions. Each division will compete internally, and then they'll all send one representative. So we'll have 12 students competing in Massachusetts state competition this year. It's looking to potentially be the largest one again. We are looking to get other states involved. They're looking to sit with us and potentially use what we did in Massachusetts as the, you know, basically the standard for the country, because it's a huge lift. You know, Tara knows. I tell the schools it's seamless, but she realized it's not really seamless. There's a lot to it. So if you are interested, connect with Tara and me. There'll be more information coming up. So basically, right now, everybody from Skills is kind of hibernating, all the staff, because they've went through quite the year. Tara knows, she's smiling. But, you know, I think right around the fall time, did we do that in August or September? September. So in September, October, we're gonna start meeting with the schools again. We're gonna start having some communications. So anybody looking to get involved, let us know. This is a big lift. The industry has to come together. The term roofer comes up quite a bit. My goal is to really make it where we're looked at as roofing professionals, right? Because it's not just the installers. There's a lot of people that it's going to take to make, you know, this trade kind of come back, but more importantly, continue to grow. So, you know, if you're out there, you're a vendor and you want to get involved, reach out to myself or Tara, Red Dogs Roofing. You can go right to the website, reddogsroofing.com. There's, you know, contact us. You can reach out that way or on social media. But yeah, there's gonna be a lot of things coming up, probably right around that September time. Did you have a follow up to that? Or?
No, that was great.
Perfect. Awesome. Anybody else? Awesome. Well, if nobody has anything else, thank you guys all for coming out. We appreciate the support. To my team, thank you for putting this together. The vendors, you know, always being there for me and supporting me. I really appreciate that. You know, this is the first one we did, so we weren't really sure what to expect, but, you know, like I told my team, whether it's one person or 1,000 people, we got to show up and bring the same energy. And I think now, to Young's point, there's a lot of clips that we have. We're going to do a lot of marketing. The only ask I have of you, you know, kind of leaving from here is help us push this the best we can. We chose July. It's very symbolic. For those of you that don't know, this is we're calling it Red Dogs Roofing Week. We did 3 roof giveaways, one in Florida, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. Today we had the trade show. Tomorrow my team does training, and we're going to do an awards night. 13 and a half years in business. This is the week that my grandfather Red was born, but also the week that he passed 24 years ago. It's very symbolic to me. That's why we picked this week. We may be picking a different week, but we'll be working with the schools to figure out the best time of when something like this will be. And yeah, we appreciate you guys all being involved. And Josh, thank you so much for coming out. Absolutely.